Welcome to NDTR Spotlight, the corner of the internet where NDTR shine. I'm your host, Marie Lorraine. And today I'm so very excited. We have two NDTRs on our podcast so far that have their master's degree, but today, now that's going to change to three. Our guest today is Jenny. She has a bachelor's of science in nutrition and dietetics, a master's degree in a master's of science in community nutrition, and she's pursuing her PhD. And she also just finished her dietetic internship. So she is doing everything and all the things. Super smart girl, super smart woman. And she is currently working in food service. So if you have an interest in food service, school nutrition, getting a doctorate degree, or using the NDTR credential as a stepping stone, this is definitely a podcast for you to listen to. So let's meet Jenny. Jenny, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk to you and pick your brain and hear your story. But let's start from the beginning. How did you find out about the NDTR credential?
So I am not a traditional undergrad student. So I actually have my associate's degree because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do for a while. And it wasn't until my early 20s I decided, oh, nutrition, this makes sense. I love talking about food. I like eating food. I like telling people about food. This is it. This is perfect for me. So I went to Westchester to finish my bachelor's degree. And they were saying, hey, some people aren't ready to do the dietetic internship straight out of, just graduating from undergrad. So I said, well, that's definitely me. I need to work. I need to save money because, 10 months of an unpaid internship is not realistic for some people. So, I thought it was a great, idea. And my professors were like, hey, you could take this exam, a couple months right after graduating. You could take it a year from now. It really just, when you're ready to take the exam, you could do, this DTR exam, the registered dietech. And there are so many things you could do with that. And I have been able to do so many great things with it. So it's been just a great experience.
I love that your professors made that point that it might be unrealistic for every student to go right into that internship. I really appreciate the school you went to, Westchester, for saying that. So what was that process like once you graduated and went that route for the NDTR credential?
So right after graduating undergrad, so I was doing a accelerated master's program through Westchester. So my senior year, I started taking one or two grad courses towards the semester, the last 2 semesters. And during that time, I got a job as a health coach, which was not exactly what I thought it was going to be like. That's another story. But I got a job as a health coach. And during that time, I was like, I feel like I should, try to study for this exam because, my grad classes were under control. I was starting to get the hang of working as a health coach. So I really didn't take the exam until December, which was 6 months after I graduated, or 7 months after I graduated. And it's just, I don't even know. It's just a blur. It went by so quickly.
Yeah. So I hear you're working as a life coach. You took the exam. You were studying for it while taking classes. How was that process and working? How did you manage all of that?
So, as a health coach, my job, I was working with clients over the phone. So it wasn't like a face-to-face consult or anything like that. But really what I noticed was there were other health coaches around me and they didn't have a nutrition background, and they were giving out very, specific information about nutrition. And that's how I realized, oh, I don't think this is for me. I started studying for the exam, 1 hour, 2 hours, whenever I could fit it in. And usually during lunch break, or if I had, time in between a class, I'd study. So I probably studied on and off about 2 weeks. And then I was like, let's try it out. Let's see if it works. Let's see, if I retain the information, but it did.
Yeah, the work you're doing in grad school and then all the work from bachelor's degree, it's all studying. So it should more so be review, but good job passing it on the first try. Not everyone has that. That's awesome. So fill us in. So you're doing this health coaching. You just finished your RD exam. Let's take you 6 months when you just passed it. What happened next? What was the next step in your journey?
So after I finished my DTR exam, I decided, health coaching isn't really for me. I was talking to the dietetic internship director over at Westchester, and I said, I'm really interested in becoming an intern, and I just want to know like next steps on how to apply and go through the process. And I'm sure anybody, intern can tell you DICUS is a bear. It was a quite challenging process, but I knew that my next step was, I've worked for a year. I had a little bit of money so that I could support myself. My next step is now to pursue the RD credential. So that's when I kind of switched gears and I started applying for internships and kind of focusing on, okay, my next step is to become a dietitian. I want to be licensed, I want to be credentialed, and I want to make sure that people around me know that dietitians are supposed to be giving out that nutrition, advice, not necessarily health coaches.
Yes, so you need some type of credentialing. I love that you said that. We just talked to Haley, and she was working as a health coach, and she eventually found the NDTR credential because, like you said, they're just saying things that maybe we're not backed as well as
Right.
folks. Yeah. Yeah. So did you finish your master's degree and then do the dietetic internship? Was there a space or was it layered?
So for Westchester's program, I did complete it before applying for my internship. I completed the degree. So my capstone was in July of 2020. And then 20, actually it was 20, yeah, July 2020. And then I applied for the internship. Really, I applied for the internship in January. So the timelines are very confusing because I did it so quickly back to back. But I had to, one of the requirements for their program is to have finished the master's degree. And they have this amazing opportunity where master's graduated students can apply under pre-select. So I didn't have to, go through DICUS, which was fantastic because I lost so many nights of sleep trying to figure out D&D digital and all this other stuff. So it was great knowing that I was able to apply pre-select just because having done my master's degree and then going through the interview process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, diecast is a beast. So that's really nice that they had that and you took advantage of that pre-select option. And so at the beginning of when I was introducing you, you talk about wanting to become a PhD level dietitian. So where does the PhD fall into the dietetic internship, the master's degree, everything that you're doing?
So during my internship, I had done a lot of rotations. My favorite rotation was my school nutrition rotation. I kind of went in there terrified because I did not enjoy food service as an undergrad student. I didn't think I was going to end up in anything food service related. And then really, I stepped into this internship with the lowest expectation. Everybody's like, oh, food service workers, they're mean to you. And, they're giving you all these, scenarios of how your internship is going to be. And if I could give any piece of advice is to just go in with no preconceived, ideas of what it's going to be like. You don't know what it's going to be like till you step in in those shoes and work. And I met, my internship preceptor, and I still talk to her. She's actually a very good friend of mine now. And she really took me under her wing. And she was like, if you're serious about school nutrition, I will show you everything that you want to see, you want to learn. And I mean, it was a life-changing experience for me. So I kind of noticed that in this field of food service, there's just a lot of challenges with like school nutrition, just certain things that I noticed. I also noticed, going through undergrad, I mean, in community nutrition, we did talk about school nutrition, but I mean, we talked about it for a class. It wasn't like, emphasis on, why we have to offer the 5 components, to make it a meal, a reimbursable, meal, a nutritious meal, just different things that I learned as an intern and now, working as a food service director. And really I'm pursuing that PhD degree because, I would love to in the future, be out there, at the collegiate level teaching and kind of showing students that, food service is not necessarily like torture. Like food service, there's actually different things that you can do with it. It's educational and, you're making a difference in children's lives. It's great. It's a great field to work in. And, one of the things that you need is a PhD to teach in certain, universities. So I just wanted to get that going before,
Yeah. Wow. I love the passion that's fueling this desire to get that PhD, the school nutrition. And it's definitely coming through with what you're saying, but can you convince us a little bit more? Like, what about school nutrition, or what was like a few things you learned in your internship or during your job that really sparks this passion that you have for it?
So having gone through the internship, I thought that school nutrition was like, okay, you serve your children the meals and they choose to eat it, they don't eat it, it's whatever. But it's way more than that. I during my internship encountered, several opportunities, and I did my internship during COVID, and it was quite interesting. The district that I was interning at, they had it's called CEP sites, so it's community eligible provisions. So a large proportion of their students are eligible for free or reduced meals, making that entire school eligible for free or reduced meals. Um, so everybody at that site receives free breakfast and free lunch meals, which is, great for this difficult time, right? Everybody's experiencing. During that time, the USDA rolled out these free boxes, and I'm not sure if in your area they had them, but they were like these 30-pound big boxes. They had, fresh produce in it, milk, yogurt, cheese, chicken, just great products. And, I didn't really necessarily see the need for it until I started working in school nutrition. You hear little pockets of, oh, there's, somebody maybe, homeless, and you hear about it like, through the grapevine, or, through other people talking, but to actually see it, having to see a kid not, saying like, I don't have food at home. I don't have access to, reheating this at home. It really just hits, home, and you're like, okay, wait a minute, like there is a disconnect here. And so I thought that during the COVID year, like it really brought emphasis on, wow, like there are so many different pockets of poverty, even around me, that I wasn't aware of. And it was just, in my, I would say it was like a little bit of ignorance, like I'm fine, people around me are fine, so everybody must be fine. And it was a very eye-opening experience for me.
That's very humbling to have that. And I have honestly never experienced like a kid saying, I don't have food at home. So yeah, I see where this passion comes from, and having the heart to be able to go into school nutrition and find solutions and organize that is so, wow, that's an amazing. Thank you for explaining a little bit about what that is. So your current job as a food service director, how did you land upon that, and what does your day-to-day look like there?
So I decided after my, internship, I was finishing up my clinical rotation, and my internship director was like, hey, like, this is right about the time you start applying for jobs. And, all of my friends were like, oh, I'm doing clinical, I'm doing community, like, and I'm like, I want to do food service. And it's just one of those things. They're like, you want to be a lunch lady? And I'm like, yeah, I want to be a lunch lady. Like, I'm excited. This is
Make
great.
them cool.
That's right. And so I started applying for jobs, and really my mentor, my internship preceptor, she really helped me during this entire process, because, getting ready for like just the interview process was just something that I have never encountered ever in just job experience. So it was panel interviews, it was 3 rounds. It was just very, and it was an intense interview. And, my internship preceptor was just like, hey, listen, like this is the real deal. Like you need to, make sure you're, shining. And so it was a lot of practice, and, just making sure that, because this was like a career for me. And it was so different from all of the different jobs that I've ever had. I was preparing for my career, and it was just like one of those opportunities where it's like, you're like, starting to look through job postings, and you're like, okay, like this sounds nice. This sounds nice. And then you find one and you're like, wait a minute, like, this is it. Like, this is my career. This is it. So it was very exciting for me. It was just exciting.
Yeah. So what are you doing as a food service director? Can you give us a little insight onto that?
Sure. So right now, I'm sure you're hearing it in the news. We're experiencing major supply chain issues. We're experiencing labor shortages. Really, I would say day to day, it just depends. I have a lot of labor shortages. I have a lot of call outs sometimes. And so sometimes I'm in the kitchens, I'm cooking. Sometimes I'm in the kitchens, I'm serving. Sometimes I'm cashiering. It's just whatever I need to do to help feed these kids, we make it happen at our district. So day to day, I would be, in an office setting. I would be, making sure that, I'm checking my free and reduced applications, making sure, I'm doing, the back end things of it. But having to have, to do the back end things and also having to work in the kitchens is definitely challenging, but I wouldn't trade this experience for anything. It's so rewarding when you see the students smile and so happy to eat this food that you're serving. It's just an amazing experience.
Wow. I'm so happy I feel like you found what you wanted. The way you're talking about it makes me feel like you found like exactly what you wanted. But I want to take it back to that NDTR credential.
Yeah.
And looking back at it, was getting that credential worth it? Did it help you at all with this journey, or could you have done without it?
I would say that the DTR credential helped me tremendously. When I just quick second rewinding, when I applied for my internship, I was the only intern that had the DTR credential. And, there was 20 of us and we were all talking about this. And, we all had different attributes, which made us, a good candidate for for an interview to, become an intern through their program. I took the DTR exam, as a stepping stone, of course, but also to make myself competitive for, being, starting to apply for internships, because I know that some people don't take the exam because they're going to go, to an internship. So I thought that that was extremely helpful in that situation. And for now, I haven't taken my RD exam. I know that when I was applying for this job as a food service director, they were asking me questions. They were like, I've never heard of an NDTR. Like, explain what an NDTR is. And, just kind of explaining to them, like, this is, I'm still, qualified to provide, nutrition education information, but I'm not quite there. I'm not quite, a dietitian yet. I can, sit for the exam. I just haven't taken it yet.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, Jenny, because when you think just getting the internship is it and then you graduate and it's done, but there's this process of studying for the exam and you don't have to take it right away. You can take time to study it. You might not pass the first time, or like you're in PhD, so you're in like high level classes and you just need some time before you sit down and take it. But still being able to have those credentials behind your name is such a nice leverage that credential provides. So yeah, definitely something that's not talked about a lot. So thank you for mentioning that. And you also mentioned that you had some time to save up before you went back to school. What was that like for you?
So I knew, right, as I was finishing up undergrad, when people were going through the process of applying, I was like, I knew I couldn't apply. I was working full time when I was going to school. So I just knew financially it just wasn't, a good decision for me. And I was taking out loans anyway to finance my education. So for me to have a 10-month internship, have no money, that that just made me really like stressed out and worried, because, I wasn't, a traditional student. So, I still, have bills, around me to pay. So that's, when I made the decision to take a gap year, which was unheard of for me. Cause I'm like, if I take a gap year, like, am I just going to like not go back? But I was still in school. So I don't really consider it a gap year, even though, it wasn't, other people around me were doing it too. So it made me feel a little bit more at ease. A good friend of mine did the same thing that I did. She took a year, she, did her master's, she worked, and sometimes you just have to be realistic with yourself. And, as much as maybe your peers are, going straight into the internship right after undergrad, or maybe, you have to take a break and you have to work and you take your DTR exam and you find a job, and then you start, applying for internship. So whatever step that is for you, just know that, just because someone else around you is doing something different doesn't make it wrong, or, make it seem like, it's not the right thing to do.
Yes, that's such good advice coming, especially from you, because your journey is so unique, with with the master's degree, then the doctorate degree, and then working health coaching. Very different story, but still very encouraging. And so I want to know, has been your experience with diversity in this field? However you want to explain that, however you interpret that, what is your take on it?
So As far as nutrition goes, I remember like during my master's degree, they had talked this extensively about diversity, inclusion, and I just noticed that, there is not much diversity, at least in the dietetics industry, from what I experienced. Um, just fast forwarding to now being in food service, I I have to say, like, I just went to a conference with other peers that are food service directors, and there was two directors that were, of minority descent. It was myself being an Asian American and another director who was an African American woman. But there was probably 60 or 70, food service directors there. And it was just an interesting, observation. It's, there's the two of us, and you could see that this field isn't necessarily, very diverse. Not saying that it can't be open for diversity, because we are, there was another director there, I was there, there's always, different, opportunities to network. But from my experience, I would say it hasn't been extremely, diverse, at least for, Asian culture. Seeing as that and that was just like the state of Pennsylvania. I'm sure, other states have, maybe they have a little bit of better diversity. Just from what I experienced, I didn't really see too much diversity in our field.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's usually how it goes, but it's nice that there isn't someone else of minority, and hopefully things will increase over time with that diversity in the field. And so, anything else that you want to share with the NDTR audience, with your journey, with any advice, anything at all?
One advice I would say is to just do it. I when I was working as a health coach, I mean, I had nights where I was just like, do I take the exam? Do I not take the exam? I'm saving money. Like, do I pay the money to take the exam? Do I buy the study materials? Because I use visual veggies, and visual veggies is expensive, especially when you're saving up to do an unpaid internship. $200 is a lot. And you're like, and then you have to pay for the exam. Do I do it? It's 100% worth it. Do it. Do it. So that's the one advice I would give. If you're right at that, you just don't know, whether or not you're going to pursue it, because you're kind of in that in between phase. Maybe you don't even want to do a dietetic internship, but I highly recommend pursuing the DTR credential, after, finishing up your bachelor's degree, because it has opened up so many avenues for me. And I landed my dream career, just having, my master's degree and having my DTR credential and work experiences. So you don't necessarily have to be a registered dietitian to, have an opportunity in food service and work as a school nutrition director.
Yeah, I love it. And hopefully that RD, I hope you pass the RD credential soon and get your PhD, so you could like encourage students with going into food service, because that's definitely, yeah. Food service is like, oh, is it good? But the way you explain it, it sounds like it's an amazing area of opportunity and really to impact so many people's lives. So where can we find you on the worldwide internet?
So I have a Facebook page, but it might be a little bit hard to find me. I have a common name, Jenny Lee. On Instagram, I do have a nutrition page. I haven't been as active on it, but I am very responsive. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, have any questions, they can reach me at the nutrition with Jennie, and then it's an underscore at the end. Actually, no, there's no underscore now. There's no more underscore.
We'll put it on the screen.
Yes. And then I'm on LinkedIn as well. That's actually how I met Marie. And, on there as well, I connect with people, whether it's, you're asking for, questions. I actually recently had somebody reach out to me on LinkedIn and asked me if I was willing to take on an intern for a dietetic internship. So it was definitely, one of those things you're like, it's like coming all, full circle. Like, I was an intern. Now I might be a, preceptor. Like, it's just one of those things. And LinkedIn's a great resource to, network with peers, with other people. And sometimes if you're curious about an industry, I would highly recommend jumping on LinkedIn, not Googling, but looking up, maybe that specific job and seeing who's out there, because, chances are, you send them a message, they might not respond, but some people do respond and they want to tell you all about their field. So it's really just, get out there and network.
Yeah, I love it. And case in point right here, we met on LinkedIn and you just shared so much awesome information about what you're doing and your journey and getting to where you are now. So really appreciate your time, Jenny. Thank you everyone for watching. Make sure to give this video a like and subscribe and check out Jenny on Instagram. She's doing some really cool things. You definitely want to follow her, see her when she gets her professor job, maybe a few years down the road. And we'll see you in our next spotlight.